You know, when Hasbro took over the Marvel Legends license, it was kind of a mixed bag of figures. There were some that were pretty cool, there were some that really weren't. And today we're going to be taking a look at one of the darker days of those early figure production runs by comparing two Banshee figures. Yeah, we're really going to do it. We're taking a look at the Annihilus Wave Banshee and the new mini comic Wave Banshee today on the Rock Nerd Radio Show.
Come geek out with us on the Rock Nerd Radio Show.
So welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is a Which is Better comparison where I take a look at two versions of the same character and try to determine which is better. And listen, we're not going to sit here and act like this is a serious comparison today. We all know that the new Banshee, the mini comic Wave Banshee, is going to be the better figure. We are going to take a look at both today, kind of just to have some fun. You know, this first Banshee figure that we have came out in the very first Hasbro wave of Marvel Legends with the Annihilus Build-A-Figure, and it didn't age well, and there's a number of reasons for that. I always talk about the paint and overall appearance the first time, or in the first round of a Which is Better comparison, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, the paint work, for the most part, isn't that bad. We have yellows, we have greens, we have nice wings. Yeah, we have everything you would probably expect Banshee to have. However, I want to say that the torso is definitely green plastic that they painted the yellow over. And over time, I don't know how well it's coming across on camera, but this yellow on mine is faded and the green is starting to come through. So there is that. Also, there's no real sculpted details to this figure. It's just this weird kind of figure buck that they were using for a while. I think the biggest thing about this figure that I never liked is that head. I understand it is supposed to be a use of Banshee's screaming powers, and, you know, because it's an open mouth, you can kind of move him around and make it look like he's using his power, but the long neck, the head being so high up, and the way that the face works, it almost looks like something out of a horror movie. Like, if this thing were coming at me down a dark hallway, and was human-sized, I'd definitely be a little intimidated. This is a creepy-looking Banshee. On top of that, his hands are stuck in this, like, permanently open style, which I don't know what they were going for this. It almost makes it look like he wants to go swimming rather than, like, using his powers or like ready for like an action stance. Maybe he could hold the new mini comic, but yeah, his appearance overall kind of a little boring. Now listen, the new one, the only sculpted detail is this collar, and it is most likely just a piece that is glued onto the figure. You can see the seam line. So the body itself, no real detail, no real sculpting. Again, I think the body itself is painted, is cast in green with the yellow just painted on top, although unlike my old one, the yellow is not bleeding away, the green isn't bleeding through, and it looks very faithful to Banshee. His hands, we do have swappable hands now. That wasn't a thing we had in this first wave, so right now he's got fists, but there are some other hand options to talk about. I do think the paint for the boot work, you know, it has like the little triangles as well as the slants here, you know, the triangles coming up at the forearms. That is a detail that the old one did not have, so that's nice to see as well. Also, this character just looks a little stockier, the new one. The old one was very, very skinny. So there is that. I think the one department that the old Banshee might have the new one beat on is the wings. And this is going to be weird to say, but if you look at these wings, they're substantial like fabric, and they're printed on both sides. The new one, if you're staring at Banshee dead on, it has the nicely printed detail. The material feels a little flimsier. It doesn't feel as thick, but on the back, the detail's not there. It is really just, I don't know, they didn't print it, they didn't manufacture it. I don't know what the right word would be. So the wings aren't as nice in my opinion. But here's the thing, like the new wings, actually I take that back. The new wings are permanently stuck in place here on the wrist, down here on the leg, and over here on the torso. The old one did have those three placement spots, but you could actually disconnect it if you wanted to. So, you know, perhaps if somebody wanted to, they could take off the old wings and stick them in place. You might have to drill holes in the new figure, though, so I don't know if I'll necessarily be doing that. But that option is there if you do have the old wing pieces available, if you have this old figure. So with that said, obviously, the new Banshee is winning our first round, our paint and overall appearance. Moving it over to my second round, let's take a look at the articulation. The head on this Banshee is on a disc to not a ball joint, but just like a stick. So his head can go up and down, and it can rotate left and right, but there's no wiggle or waggle there. The body itself will rotate. The wings do inhibit some of the movement, like eventually it's going to stop moving. Not that you can't take the wings off and continue moving, but why would you really flip the character all the way around, you know? And there is ab crunch. The weird thing about this one is the way the figure's molded, I always had trouble kind of finding a good ab crunch like level, because it clicks, the ab crunch. You can hear that click. But like, this is a little hunched over. This is a little too far back, and that was one of the problems with this figure design, this buck design that Hasbro used to use. I never really knew where to like have a decent stance for the figure. I guess this looked okay, but then the head almost looks like it's going out in a weird way, so that was something to talk about and think about. The arms, I'm going to disconnect the wing to show you, can go all the way around, and they will go significantly up, so there is that. The forearm will rotate at the bicep. Double jointed elbow. It is pinned, but not at the time, like pinless wasn't an idea yet. So it is double jointed, although mine seems to be a little stuck in one of them. I'm not going to force it and break it on camera. The wrist rotates actually at the glove cut. So there is that. And then the hands do move in and out, but rather than being a hand that goes to a stick into the joint, here's the whole joint right here. So there is that. All right, I'm just going to connect all this back up. Moving on down to the legs, you can already see there are these ball joints at the legs, and I always hated this style of ball joints. I hated it when Toy Biz used it. I hated it when Hasbro used it. But in order to move the leg forward, you would have to rotate the whole ball joint and then kick the leg forward. From there, you could rotate the leg at the bottom of the ball joint and have it look a little more natural. But it was always like such a pain to move some of these ball joints around, especially if joints got stuck. So yeah, the leg can move forward via that ball joint. It can move sideways too. And it can move back, and you can invert it in all kinds of ways, however you want. There is rotation at the thigh, again, on that ball joint. The ball joint itself always looked a little unnatural, so it made this leg movement a little unnatural, but it did rotate. Double jointed knee, of course, pinned, like I said. And we had boot cut as well. The wing plugged right above the boot cut, so the boot can fully rotate. And then the feet can move up and down, or forward and back rather. And these did have ankle pivot. So this one, you can see, it had like a system in here. It was almost like the foot is sitting on a piece that would let it go left and right. And not the worst way to get some ankle pivot. You can see he actually stands quite nicely with that ankle pivot. So there we go. That is our old one's articulation. Looking at the new one, everything you've come to expect from modern day Marvel Legends. It is a slider to a ball joint. Head can go up and down, left and right, and you get a little wiggle waggle in there. And the head, gets a little bit of extra movement on that ball joint. At the body, we are going to be able to rotate like this, and you can go a little further than the old one. Of course, the wings, once again, getting in the way a little bit. Ab crunch, forward and back. But again, like, here's a neutral stance. He doesn't look like he's a hunchback or like leaning forward or something. So pretty neat. At the arms, we do have butterfly joints, something the old one did not have. The arms can go all the way around. Of course, the wings are eventually going to bunch up on you there, but they can go all the way around. In terms of going up, they're only going to go up about that much, and that's not even because of the wings. That's just how much they roll or move. Double jointed elbow, as you can see, it is pinless. And at the wrist, we have wrist rotation and left to right with these hands. Moving on down to the leg, a very natural looking leg that is going to kick forward that far and kick sideways. Full rotation at the thigh. Did I say bicep swivel on the arm? I forget if I did, but it's there. Anyway, it just popped in my head. Double jointed knee, pinless. We do have boot rotation, boot cut. Little bit of up and down on the foot, and then left to right on the rockers as well. So, hey, we get some decent movement on the new Banshee. It's like I said, what you've come to expect from a modern day Marvel Legends, but it is just a little bit more than this one. Really, these old ones did lay the groundwork for these. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, we should have skipped this completely. It was a necessary step. But with that said, our new mini comic Banshee wins round 2. Let's talk about accessories, and for our old Banshee, well, this was it. He came with a Build-A-Figure piece for Annihilus, but otherwise, this is it. This is what you get. Maybe you want to count the wings as accessories, but because they can come on and off, but it's part of Banshee's look, so I'm not going to. So that's all we got for this one. Our new one is part of this mini comic wave, so aside from his wings that are fully attached, he does come with a tiny little copy of Giant Size X-Men, which we'll revisit in just a moment. Being a repaint of that Banshee that came out in the X-Men blue and yellow 3-pack a couple years back, he does have all the same, most of the same accessories, and that he also has a screaming head. And while I gave the other one a lot of guff for the screaming head, really the new one is a lot nicer. This actually looks better. I wish there was some kind of effect that Hasbro could put out that we could have emanating from Banshee's mouth to make it look like he was using his powers, because otherwise there's him standing like this on a shelf would be honestly a little strange. So I'm keeping the neutral head. Although if I have him flying, we may change it. We'll see what happens. He also does have a couple interchangeable hands. He's got his fists on right now. He's only got one of these, like, open grasping hands, because the other two hands that he has are grip hands. He has a left and right grip hand. One has, like, a trigger finger, which I find to be a bit of an odd choice, because I don't think Banshee's carrying anything. But the other grip hand you can use to grip that little tiny copy of Giant Size X-Men. And it doesn't hold it too well. Like, you can kind of see it's like barely holding on to it. Maybe the trigger finger here would hold it better. Let's see. It fits a little better in that hand. He'd still be holding it at a bit of an angle, but he can hold on to it. So simply because he has accessories in general, whereas the other one doesn't, our new Banshee wins round 3, the accessory round. My 4th round is the price and availability round. So look, the new Banshee, mini comic wave Banshee, $25 figure. You can find him in wherever you're finding stores. People are apparently finding him for cheap in Walmart. I saw someone post on Facebook as of this recording that they saw one for $10 in a Walmart and they picked him up. When I saw mine in a local Target, he was one of 4 Banshees sitting on a shelf. It was almost like my Target just got a case of this Banshee because he was the only one on the shelves. But $25, find him now. You get him in your local, or your favorite online retailer as well. Old Banshee, you're only going to be able to get him on eBay. Granted, he'll cost you just about $15. Like, there seems to be the going rate. But, what would you rather do? Walk into maybe a Target or Walmart, get a Banshee, or go on eBay? Technically, he is the cheaper option. But just because this one, as of this video, is readily available, I'm going to give round 4 to him as well. I think it's just the better way to go. In a month after this recording, this could all change, and he might skyrocket to be a $78 figure, while this one is $10, and then definitely buy him, maybe. But I really think this is just the better buy. So like I said, this Banshee wins round 4. My last round is my display compatibility round. Now, you might want to use this Banshee in one of 2 places. You might use it in more than 2 places, but I'm going to tell you what I think of when I see this Banshee. When I see this Banshee, I think of Giant Size X-Men #1. That's where my mind always goes. However, I also think of Banshee in this costume from the X-Men animated series, because this is what he wore in that animated series. My first ever Banshee figure that I had when I was a kid was the blue and yellow, because that was what he was wearing at the comics at the time, but of course this is his original look. So, I'm thinking Giant Size X-Men, granted he wasn't the comics before Giant Size X-Men, but I'm thinking Giant Size X-Men, that's who he would be with. So, let's put these Banshee figures with some characters that appeared in Giant Size X-Men. So, we're going to do a Nightcrawler figure. And, let's move everybody back a little bit so you can see everybody. So, here's Banshee, the Banshees. Here is Nightcrawler. Here, of course, is Wolverine. And here is Thunderbird. So these are just the ones I had readily available that I decided to pull out. And honestly, looking at these and thinking about modern action figures, I think our new one definitely looks the best. The old one is smaller. Like, Wolverine's crouched down. He's standing straight up, my old one, and he's almost shorter than Wolverine. He's a tiny figure. He's got lanky, weird joints. The head, like I said, and the neck is a weird combination. Putting this Banshee with this team really makes it look like a pretty solid team. Of course, there are other members here that I could pull out, like Sunfire and Colossus and Storm. These are just the ones that I had readily available that I decided to pull out. I guarantee that in a couple years, I'll be rolling this team back out again because we'll probably get a new giant size X-Men Storm. We'll probably get a new Cyclops from that comic that I can compare. But all these look really good to me, and they look like they belong together. So, with all that said, I am giving our fifth and final round to our mini comic Banshee. Really just looks the best when compared to the rest of the X-Men. Not that it really was much of a competition, but our new mini comic Banshee does a clean sweep victory for this version of Which Is Better. He's just the better value, the better buy, and the better figure. I think we all knew this going into it. But he is a really cool figure, and I'm glad we got it, especially after getting the blue and yellow one. I was really hoping for green and yellow. It makes my giant size X-Men display shelf look that much better. And that is important to me. That's something that really makes me happy. So, what do you think of this Banshee figure? Did you pick it up? Do you actually like the old one better? I'd be curious to know why. But we're going to keep those conversations polite and civil and respectful. Anyway, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And remember, you can check out the Rock Nerd Radio Show podcast on your preferred podcast platform. It is a weekly podcast hosted by me and my good friend and co-host Vinny, where we talk about all types of different pop culture related things. There's bound to be something on there that you're going to enjoy. So with all that said, I want to thank you for checking out this video. That's been Banshee. You've all been pretty awesome. I'll see you around.